McLaren's decision to part ways with the only driver to win a race for them in the last 10 years has been heavily criticised, with many F1 fans believing that Daniel Ricciardo, an Australian, still has a lot to offer. Many in the paddock have praised the Woking-based team's plan to replace the 8-time Grand Prix winner with a younger, talented Australian. However, it appears that not everything is going swimmingly for the McLaren racing team, with recent reports from the McLaren camp indicating that the team is in more trouble than many realise. What is the McLaren racing team currently facing? What is the latest on the Oscar Piastri Alpine saga? With the McLaren racing team eager to get rid of Daniel Ricciardo, the Australian driver has resorted to holding his ground and is reportedly seeking a massive payout if the Woking-based team wants to get rid of him. Ricciardo was reported to have requested $21 million to leave his contract, leaving McLaren, who are still battling to declare Oscar Piastri, in a bind. The payout is said to be dependent on the 33-year-old driver sitting out the rest of the 2023 season. However, if he signs with another team on the grid, McLaren will be entitled to a refund of whatever payout was finalised. Nonetheless, it appears Ricciardo is keen to hit back against the McLaren racing team for letting him go after only 2 seasons with them, since he is the only person with the right to cancel his contract. The 8-time Grand Prix winner has been rumoured to be planning to sit out the rest of the 2023 season in a bid to play the long game of getting a Mercedes race seat should Lewis Hamilton retire. However, should this scenario play out, McLaren Racing, and particularly the British team's CEO Zak Brown, will be rueing signing the Australian in the first instance, as they would be forced to cough up the payout he requests for. However, alongside the ongoing Alpine-McLaren drama and the growing likelihood of Daniel Ricciardo leaving the British racing team, not much has been heard from McLaren's other Formula One driver, Lando Norris, given that his race seat for the 2023 season is secure and he is undoubtedly regarded as the McLaren racing team's future. Regardless, the Bristol-born driver, who is presently the best of the rest since he is the only 7th racer on the grid this 2022 season to have finished on the podium, has revealed that MCL 36 has been subpar and is unreliable for him. He affirmed that McLaren's poor performance in the 2022 Formula One season isn't entirely the driver's fault, because the car is also to blame, because the MCL 36 isn't suited to his driving style despite him adapting to it. I don't think you can probably in any way say the car is made around me. From what I want from the car, it's like the opposite of what it's giving me at the minute. I would say the car I have now is completely not what I want for my driving style and very unsuited for me. It's not a bad thing, it's just that's what it is and you have to adapt to it. That's why I feel like I've done a reasonable job this year, adapting to something that isn't quite what I want or like, Norris said. Lando Norris has scored 76 points so far before the summer break, which is 3 times the points scored by Ricciardo, who was brought in to help McLaren be more competitive and compete with the likes of Mercedes and Red Bull for the championship. The British driver also finished on the podium at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, but he believes he only finished 3rd at Imola due to pure luck. Lando, who finished behind Red Bull duo Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez at Imola, capitalised on Charles Leclerc's crash at the barrier to secure a podium finish, and the 22-year-old driver admitted that he still doesn't know how he did it given the condition of the MCL 36. "I still don't know how I got a podium with the car that we had. It still blows my mind, considering how much quicker a lot of the other cars were. Like now, when I think of it, I think it's probably one of my best podiums." In wet qualifying, it was a pretty awesome lap in qualifying, but when you see the speed of the Alfa Romeo, it was like half a second a lap quicker than me in the race. If we did a race of just pure pace, I'd probably be like 15th or something. But I finished on the podium, said Lando. Lando, who has been on the podium 6 times in his Formula One career, went on to say that while he is pleased with his performance during race weekends, he believes that the McLaren racing team is currently overachieving, and as such, he expects the team to improve on the car if they are to compete with the likes of Red Bull, Ferrari and Mercedes. "I feel like I'm doing a good job as well. I've got to give myself a little bit of credit. My lap in France was genuinely a very, very good lap. But I also need the car on that day to be able to do that job. I can't drive the wheels off, I'm just doing what the car is capable of doing. When it comes to Sunday, you feel like you don't have necessarily the same car. We're still trying to understand all of that and know why exactly we're able to do a better job on the Saturday than we can on the Sunday." When you get to the point of actually competing with the top runners in qualifying, we also can't just rely that we're suddenly quick in the race. These are the sort of things you've got to improve on, Lando said. However, amidst Lando's concerns for the 2022 season, McLaren's 2023 season remains uncertain as Oscar Piastri, who McLaren is keen to replace Daniel Ricciardo, faces the possibility of Alpine racing team blocking his move to McLaren. The French racing team has been persistent in their efforts to have the young Australian driver race for them next season, and they have since declared that they will go to court. However, Formula One driver Ralf Schumacher has called the Enstone racing team sore losers, asserting that Alpine Racing, not Piastri, is to blame for the loss of the whole saga. Oscar Piastri has done everything right. Now we can only hope that the sore loser, in this case Alpine, doesn't put obstacles in the boys' path. Piastri was with them, they had everything in hand, all they had to do was give him a contract. He won Formula 3 in his first year, and Formula 2 as well. What should he be waiting for? I would have done the same if I had been offered a job. One thing was clear, Alpine wasn't interested in putting Piastri in the car next year at the beginning because they saw that young drivers need a certain amount of time. When you have such a duel, it's criminal to let him go. If you're then unable to get the contracts right yourself, you can't blame the young man, said Ralf Schumacher. Nonetheless, in a related drama, IndyCar driver Pato O'Ward, who recently joined the McLaren squad to replace Daniel Ricciardo, expressed his displeasure with the news that Oscar Piastri will be the driver to take Ricciardo's 2023 race seat. The Mexican driver, who joined McLaren alongside Colton Herta and Alex Palou from the IndyCar series with the ambition of eventually racing in Formula One, was initially targeting the vacant Alpine seat, but given that McLaren CEO Zak Brown had promised him her seat, he was reported to have given up his pursuit of the Alpine seat. However, the recent revelation that the seat for the 2023 season is intended for Oscar Piastri has left O'Ward frustrated, and he has so far called out Zak Brown, believing the McLaren CEO's actions are laughable. It's not good for me to have that illusion. It's a dream that's very far away because although I'm racing at a very high level, it's still not enough to convince them. There are many things that come into play that are beyond me. I found it laughable. I saw it and I laughed. The same prize has been put in front of many other drivers by Brown. In the end, there is only one seat and not 5, O'Ward said. Also, in more relatable news that doesn't bode well for the McLaren racing team, Alpine team principal Otmar Szafnauer appears to not be taking the Oscar Piastri saga well, having sworn that he would throw everything he had to get ahead of McLaren in both the drivers' and constructors' standings. Lando Norris, who finished ahead of both Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon at the 2022 Hungarian Grand Prix, cut the Enstone-based team's advantage over McLaren to 4 points on the constructors' standings, and according to the Alpine boss, he explained that the French racing team would continue to bring in updates to each Grand Prix grid without facing any trouble with the budget cap, to prove that they are the better team on the track. They've, McLaren, definitely made a step. We had headroom under the cost cap, so there is no cost cap consideration stopping us from bringing upgrades. So we'll have something in Spa, Szafnauer said. However, regardless of the current situation at the Woking-based team, McLaren team principal Andreas Seidl has stated that he is pleased with McLaren's progress at the moment and is confident that they can improve because the right factors are already in place. Seidl clarified his statement by saying that, considering the challenges of their 2022 season, he is optimistic that these struggles will be a learning curve for the team, and that he is looking forward to their new development for the 2023 season, which will see them compete with the top teams on the grid. In a year like this year, I see that, as a team, we're making steps forward in a lot of different areas. In the way how we work together back home, how we work together between races and back home, in terms of productivity, in terms of pit stops, for example. That's for me the most important thing, that even in a challenging season like this one, we keep making steps as a team. Because that's key for me, to be in a position in 3 years to fight again regularly for race wins, Seidl said. According to McLaren's boss, these developments, which include a new wind tunnel and simulator, will help the Woking-based team become more competitive in the near future. We plan to have the wind tunnel ready by the middle of next year, which means part of the 24-car development will benefit from the new wind tunnel already. The first full car that will be developed in the tunnel is the 25 car. On the driving simulator side, we are planning to complete a new one at the end of this year, beginning of next year, where we then hopefully see some benefits already next year or at the latest in 24. We are heavily looking into updating all our production facilities as well, which needs to happen in parallel to us becoming better as a team. Nonetheless, McLaren fans will be hoping that even if the team lands Oscar Piastri to race for the team next season, the Australian driver will be able to hit the ground running right away and avoid the same problems with the McLaren car that hampered his compatriot Daniel Ricciardo from performing well. What are your thoughts on McLaren's car issue in the 2022 Formula 1 season? Do you believe it is to blame for Ricciardo's problems? Do you believe McLaren has what it takes to beat Alpine to 4th place in the constructors' standings? Let us know in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, the next video on your screen is worth your time.